Hello and welcome to Consolation League. I'm Warhammer Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm Paul.
And tonight we're joined with a friend of the podcast,
Yeah.
somebody who's made a few comments and has listened in a few times and has played in a bunch of games with Paul. We've got Lucas Duchesne joining us. Hello and
Yeah,
Hey,
Lukas.
welcome.
glad
Welcome.
to
Thanks
be
for joining
here.
us. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great to have you. A
hopefully you
veteran
never
of the
meet your.
Long War himself.
Absolutely.
For those listening to the podcast and not watching it, we get the view of Lucas's game, what I'll call his game room, where we've had one of our Siege of Cathonia campaign games, and he's got this awesome set of terrain where he throws down this, is it a Warhound Titan legs?
Oh no, Warlord.
Warlord
Yeah,
Titan
Warlord
legs
Titan.
for you to
Yeah.
fight through. So it's
That's
a
amazing.
fantastic setup.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a hell of a room. I'm being creepy and looking at everything in the background.
Like I was saying before, I should have cleaned up a little bit, but I was panicking
No,
trying to get here on time.
it looks
but
amazing. It's I think it would put a lot of people to shame just the hobby corner that you've got kind of set
yeah,
up. This is amazing.
it's a
I
cool little
think you
setup.
spoke earlier maybe about like the progression you have of like where your hobby space starts off as. And my
Mhm.
first hobby space was a corner in a room on a desk that I picked up off the side of the road. And this
Right.
I feel is almost the culmination of 7 or 8 years
Yeah.
of a hobby journey.
Yeah,
This is
I love it.
amazing.
This is the end road. This is the goal we need to achieve. It's fantastic. I noticed too, Scott, you'll appreciate this. Lucas has a Scotty. You can
Oh,
just
I
see
just
him
saw
in the
that
little
behind. Yeah.
background.
she
Scott's got
went.
a
Oh yeah, there
black
she is.
Scottish Terrier as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I'll move out of the way, get Maggie some
Yeah,
screen
there it
time.
is.
There
There she
you
is.
go.
Yeah.
It's just laying there. Do you
Yeah.
have a
Just laying
Scottish
there.
Terrier as well? That's amazing.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
Scottish Terrier and a cockapoo.
We don't
Who
need to
Okay.
is
talk about the cockapoo.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I'm only
he's
interested in the
the
Scotty.
demon. The Scotty is great. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
The
They're
happy little
such
guy.
regal little dogs.
And their
They are.
characters.
They're
They're just
characters and a half.
yeah.
So Lucas, you and I first met playing in I think it was through the Heresy, Kingston Heresy League, or I think it was one of the escalation leagues that got organized here locally.
Yeah.
Um, when did you get started in the hobby?
For me, it started all in when I was about 12. So that's about 2002. I was 12 years old. I was into Pokemon, and I was
Mm,
going to a local game store that had trading cards. That's what they were
mhm.
selling. But they also there had the Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game or whatever it was going by at the
Oh,
time.
wow.
It was when the first Mines of Moria set was coming out, and
Okay.
Okay.
that's what really grabbed me. I My whole family was big into Lord of the Rings. We saw the
Mhm.
movies together, but even before that, my father read The Hobbit to us, and then every single Lord of the Rings out loud, which
Oh,
was a
wow.
recipe
It
for a
took a
dry
while.
mouth. Yeah, that's a
Now,
lot of spoken word.
now, did he sing the
Yeah,
songs
did he
or did
sing them?
he did he just
I think
speak
he
them?
gave it his best try, and he did a
Yeah.
couple voices too.
That's
Oh, that's
amazing.
good. That's
So,
That's
anyways,
great.
great.
we so it was a friend of mine and I got together, split that box with the help of our
Mhm.
parents because we were 12,
Yeah.
and went about painting these little goblins and elves and dwarves terribly and playing on a green flocked mat on his mother's formal dining room table that they never used. So for about a year, definitely nobody used that dining room table. It was just
Yeah.
for Lord of the Rings.
That's
Awesome.
amazing. As it should be.
Yeah, but very soon, like it must have been within 8 months, 9 months of doing that. I started like while playing the Lord of the Rings one, seeing these Warhammer miniatures,
Mhm.
especially 40K at the time, seeing
Mhm.
the 40K miniatures on the wall, and that's when I really got hooked. I really enjoyed the Lord of the Rings one, but as soon as I started getting into to 40K, that's when I was in deep. You'd say
That was in
I was
deep.
right
That was you.
around mid third edition when Tau was coming out, so that was my first army.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, Tau was my first army, and I had a blast playing with them and then collecting rapidly 4, 5, 6, I think probably 7 armies by the time I was
Sounds about right.
15 or 16. And
Wow.
then high school kind of took over,
Sure.
and my interests shifted away from
Yeah.
wargaming for
Yeah.
a time,
Yeah.
to the point even where in I think it was 2012 2011 or 2012 when I was in university. I
Hmm.
sold every single model I had for I think
Wow.
$600.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Almost a song for
yeah.
probably for something silly like beer money.
Yeah.
Um, and really
Sensible
regretted
choice at
that.
the time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really regretted that. I was probably about mid fifth, but I played a lot in third, played a lot in fourth, in Trenton at JMB Books mostly, which is still
Okay.
a
It's
thriving
still
community,
going. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's still going. We've met those guys. Scott played them at
Yeah, they come out to
the
Critical
last
Hit all the
critical hit.
time.
Yeah, the last critical hit tournament we played in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Seems like a
Good
fun
guys.
group.
The
Hmm.
owners of that store before it was a guy named Bob, and he was just the nicest, most supportive.
Hmm.
He had a bunch of like 13 and 14-year-old kids running around his store, causing a
Hmm.
mess, realistically, playing Warhammer, and he just loved it, and he was happy to have us there and pretty much look after us for 3 to 4 hours,
That's
almost
great.
every Thursday night. So it was
Wow.
one of
That's
the reasons I
awesome.
stuck with it for so long and poured every single
Hmm.
cent I had into it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He knew
Oh,
what he
you're
was doing.
yeah,
He
I
knew
mean, it
yeah.
was
exactly what
right.
he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Repeat business. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's perfect.
So
And
then I
then so
left it. Yeah.
you
I left
left
the
it.
hobby for a while.
Okay.
Went through university, and then back when I went back to school to go to college again,
Hmm.
a friend of mine from high school called me up and said, "Hey, you used to play that Warhammer game, right?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you ever like consider getting back into it?" I said, "Absolutely, 100%." It was just the push I needed. I had been
Yeah.
eyeing it up, no hesitation,
Yeah.
and dove right back into it with Tau once again. It was my
Nice.
first
Okay.
army back in mid seventh.
Mhm.
Yeah, about mid seventh. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
And
And
you've been solid since.
I would say so. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
been some like ebbs and flows a little bit, but
Hmm.
pretty much flow the whole way.
Right.
Okay.
And my first game back was with Shannon, who you had on the podcast
Yeah.
before. Who
Hmm.
what a great way to get introduced back into the community, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
that was
absolutely.
amazing.
had our first game on one of the old. I don't know if you were around when Nexus had the big city fight tables. They were from an old games day. They
No.
were these
Cool.
4x8, highly detailed, amazing to look at, kind of rough to play on tables.
Hmm.
That one of them had a crashed Warhound Titan, like a Lucius pattern Warhound Titan. Another one
Hmm.
had a 2 foot wide ditch that was almost 12 inches deep, and then
Oh,
buildings
wow.
that raised for
Holy
like it
shit.
was tough to reach the top even for me because they were raised up.
That's
Right.
It was an
amazing
amazing
because
table.
that's that Matt that seems to track for Shannon stuff. He said he liked to do like thematic
Yeah.
storytelling kind of games and that kind of thing. So that kind of
Oh,
that
these were
Hmm.
tracks.
yeah, these were from the old games days when they used to hold them in Canada back in to like in the early 2000s. And these tables were part of, I think it was a 12 or 16 table set, 4x8 tables that all squished together to play a giant city fight apocalypse game at one point. I've only ever
Holy
seen the two,
smokes.
but it
That's
must have been
amazing.
something. Must have been something.
And that was back at Nexus?
That was at Nexus. Yeah. They had two of
Wow.
those tables, and over 2 years, they raffled them off during club championships because they were hard to play on,
Yeah.
and they took up a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
room. They did take up a
Gotcha.
lot of room, but they were beautiful.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the kind of thing that, like, we wish you had now, because for Heresy, being
Oh,
like such a
yeah,
thematic system, you wouldn't care if it's hard to play on because you're like,
exactly.
we're talking theme and story. So, um, wow, that's cool. And then, so you've been a Kingston Nexus tournament scene regular.
Yeah, definitely from 2016 to 2020.
Hmm.
I think I missed maybe two out of the five that get put on every year. So
Right.
I went to every single club championship, the Great Crusades, the Secret Santas, the team
Hmm.
tournaments. I loved all of them. Still do. I just don't get to go to them nearly as much as I would like anymore, which is too bad.
Yeah, I mean, adulting gets in the way sometimes,
It's a
and
hundred
it's
percent it.
it's
Adulting has gotten in the way of a lot of
It
yeah,
fun.
it
exactly.
funds the hobby, but it gets in the way of the
Yeah.
hobby.
Oh
It
yeah,
really interferes with us playing with our toys when they got to grow up and work and look after our kids and yeah.
it's
No,
absolutely that.
that's great. And then recently, I know in our little group you were plugging the Hogtowner, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Shannon. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Shannon was under the impression that it might be the same event that he had referred to that had been going on in Toronto for a number of years, like a narrative
Oh,
themed.
he might be talking about Astronomicon.
Yes, that's what he was
Yes.
talking
That's the
about.
one.
And like,
Yeah.
so there was crossover between those two groups. I know that for a
Okay.
while, the Hogtown fellows were taking some inspiration from Astronomicon, but
Mhm.
doing their own thing as well too.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
and that was that is if it was a fantastic event. It's a fantastic event every single time I go.
Mhm.
And I always have a blast. And it's just a really great group of guys who put it on, and with a big focus on the pillars of the hobby is like what they like to call it. They like to have the hobby side of it is really pushed, like the
Mhm.
painting, the modeling, the converting, that side, but also the gameplay and like the friendships you make along the way. So the
Yeah,
pillars would be like hobby, gameplay, sportsmanship.
right.
And
Very
so they're
cool.
really trying to push that forward there. Although I have played on both sides. There's because they do a 30K event and a 40K event, and what I try to
Mhm.
do is one year I do the 40K event, the next year I
Mhm.
do the 30K event, and I flip flop back and forth.
Nice.
So I've done that 4 times now.
Awesome.
It's really
So
fun.
this last one, was
Yes,
the weekend of the 16th, I think, November.
yes,
How did that one go?
phenomenally. It was such a
Okay.
great time. So this year was one of my heresy years.
Hmm.
And they always pull out all the stops for these heresy events. It's not a tournament. They don't advertise it as such. It's an
Hmm.
event. It's a storytelling event as much as a gameplay event. Uh, there was an application process to even get in, where you had
Oh,
to
Oh,
wow.
submit your character's backstory. There was no special characters allowed in this one either. The
oh,
whole idea
that
was that it
is
was
cool.
you were your warlord was the one that was participating in this campaign,
That's
and
really
part
cool.
of the reason that they wanted you to submit information about your warlord beforehand was
Hmm.
because they wrote pages and pages of fluff for this event that were read out to
Okay.
us before each engagement that we were going on. So when we went into a mission,
Hmm.
we knew we were fighting for something. And oftentimes that fight had repercussions on both the story and
Hmm.
also the next games in terms of like who's going first. Sometimes there were special side missions that gave us bonuses. Um,
That's
Oh,
really
so
cool.
we would split off into traitors and
hmm.
loyalists on different sides of the event hall. And one of the organizers would read out the fluff, and your praetor's name would come out, and everyone would go, "Yeah, yeah, that's my guy," kind of thing.
That's
And
so
telling
cool.
about the deeds that they had done in the previous battle and what they were planning to do on the next one. So it was phenomenal.
Holy. All right.
That's
So when you're creating your, are you giving your Praetor the standard stats? Or are you allowed to throw in certain special rules, or
So you
how does that
start
work?
as a bog standard praetor, and those
Okay.
for 40K folks listening, a praetor is like your captain.
Hmm.
He's like the
okay.
leader of your legion.
Hmm.
Um, so you're like a captain level, chapter master level kind of guy. So he starts as a bog standard one, but like any good campaign in the weekend, there's character
Hmm.
progression depending on
Hmm.
whether he survives, if he does a great deed or something like that, or if he unfortunately falls in battle and needs to be
Hmm.
stitched up before the next engagement. So there were both bonuses for
Yeah.
if you survived, rolling on a table, very much like Crusade. But
Okay.
there were also
I was
scars of
about to say.
war
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
could persist and negatively impact. And some of them were pretty impactful. There was one that was your praetor got blinded and in one eye, and he couldn't
Hmm.
shoot anything out of 12 inches.
Oh,
Anything
wow.
within
Oh,
12 inches was snapshots, which is only sixes to hit. That's
wow.
it's pretty detrimental.
Yeah.
But there was a way to dig yourself out of that hole where you could choose before the mission started an act that your praetor was going to try to do to redeem himself.
Hmm.
And if he achieved that act, your battle scar was removed for the next one.
Oh,
There's a way to get
cool.
yourself out of it because you don't want to end up in those situations where it becomes like a lose more, where the losing side
Hmm.
keeps losing more and more and more.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And you end up with a pretty limpy praetor that can't really do much.
Yeah. 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 And you're kind of like, I spent the whole weekend to do what? So
That's amazing.
do you find that event they kind of focus on the balance a little bit to try and
No.
no, no,
If
not at
anything,
all?
there are they it almost specializes in asymmetrical mission design. Um,
Okay.
just because the main drive for being there isn't the winning, it's the journey. And
Mm,
so there are missions where you're assaulting a fortress. That was the second mission we had to do. And so the
mm,
traders were set up with on one end of a table, and there was 5 tables with traders against loyalists. And each one of these tables, they had scrounged from the community enough terrain to make bastions that stretched across the whole
That's so
narrow portion of
cool.
the board halfway up. And you'd have to push your way up through these bastions. So the loyalists had like this big, heavy, fortified defensive position. The traders had to push up forward to it. So there's an inherent asymmetry there that
Yeah.
means that it's going to be tough. Sometimes it's going to landslide, sometimes it's not. But I mean, such is battle, I suppose.
Right.
And you're really there to tell the story. So
That's really cool.
you don't really mind.
Do they do the same thing on the 40K side, or is that kind of strictly on the 30K heresy type of stuff where it's more story kind of
The
thematic?
40K side is more of a standard tournament setup. It's
Okay.
got like a full it's a Swiss pairing, a 5-round event, using more standard missions. They're not fully standard. They still
Okay.
kind of push it as a, like they're not using, for example, they're not using like WTC layouts.
Okay.
Even the terrain a lot of the time is more of a focus on being like a cool looking table, so it's not even a GW layout sometimes, so that can cause some inherent imbalances. They also in previous years were doing twists before there were twists in the standard decks.
Okay.
And some of those have remained. Like one of the missions, so I didn't play in the 40K one this year, but I do know that one of the missions was called Grognard's Revenge, which is harkens back to a scoring system very similar to, like, say, 5th to 7th edition, instead of using secondaries where you're getting 4 points, 5 points each turn to your max of 15, and trying to get to that 100. Instead, there was things like First Strike, Slay the Warlord, behind enemy lines. So anybody who's been in the hobby for 20, 30 years will be like, oh my gosh, we played those same objectives for 30 years, and that's the way I like it.
That's amazing. This
So there
sounds like
still
a hell of
is
an event.
a focus on competition. Like they
Right.
want to have tough games, but it's not the limelight.
Right.
For example, there's no there's no money or prize support that goes towards ranking at all. It's all draws, much like Nexus does. So it's a similar community that way. There's trophies for a bunch of stuff as well. And the idea is that you're going to get 5 great games over the course of a weekend with 5 great opponents in a air-conditioned hall, which is a pretty big bonus.
That is an important bonus.
With a bunch of sweaty nerds.
100%. That is a saving grace.
We're losing Paul.
We're losing Paul. Paul's connection is breaking down. So while he's breaking down a little bit, so what faction were you playing? You were playing Loyalist, I think you were saying?
Oh no, I was a trader.
You were on the trader side.
I was a dirty trader. So I'm playing Sons of Horus. In the classic sea green. I just fell in love with that color scheme. And have been having a blast painting them up. But I also brought along a contingent of Solar Auxilia Leman Russes, which were a lot of fun to play with for a couple games. And for one of the games, I even was able to play with my Warhound Titan, which was underwhelming, but really cool to see on the table. Have you ever looked at the rules for those in 40K, like a Warhound Titan, just for fun?
No, I haven't. I haven't bothered to look those things up because I don't know what it would be like, but
it's bad. It's bad.
Is it?
It's unfortunately bad.
That's so much. That sounds like so much fun. It sounds like one hell of an event. Like it's just especially on the 30K side, it sounds like it's just pure bonkers fun, like just story driven fun. Get out there and play with your toys.
And what also is great about it is I find the more I'm playing and involved in the both sides of the hobby, I'm also into AOS as well, same as Paul.
Woo!
Yeah, right. I find AOS is like the most beer and pretzel it can possibly be. 40K is more of the game. It's there's more of a competitive slant now, but you can still have tons of fun with it. I'm not one of those people who thinks that 40K has gone to full esport mode. I think you can still have a ton of fun with 40K. Yeah. And I feel like 30K is an art project with rules. Because everybody there is just pouring their heart and soul into these models. And they're like, this thing is not good, but I spent 42 hours painting it, so I'm going to bring it
Hmm.
So,
because it looks great.
so by God, it's getting time on the table.
Exactly.
That's a great way of putting it because I totally find that that's always been my approach to 30K is like I really like the look of that. So I'm picking that up and then I'll worry about how I'm gonna fit it in later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think the first heavy support squad I built was the autocannons.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like, they do okay, but they're by far they're not a last cannon squad. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's a night and day difference. But
But they look really cool.
they
They
look
do.
great.
They
They
Yeah.
look
look cool,
amazing. They
man.
You have the underslung ones, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're
They just
great.
look great. So I totally approach heresy in the rule of cool kind of way. Like I'm like, I like how that looks, so I'm gonna try and find a way to fit that into my list, or I'll just
yeah.
play it and see how it goes
I
and
think
run with it.
they just did some previews for some new tanks and things and vehicles that are going to be
Mhm.
coming out. And there's one that
Mhm.
looks completely impractical. I think it's a flamer where the gas tank or whatever it
Yeah.
is behind it.
The
It
Malcador
totally
Infernus.
it looks
Yeah.
totally impractical, but by God, is that an amazing looking model?
That
Yeah.
is
Like,
it's a Lord of War choice.
Yeah.
It's a big boy.
yeah, it
Well,
looks phenomenal.
it
A
would
lot
be
of
a
It's
those
lot of
a
things.
points.
Titan's flame cannon, Warhound Scout Titan's flame cannon mounted on a Malcador
Hmm.
Hmm.
chassis.
Yeah.
With a little, you're right, absolutely, with a little wagon pulling
With a
behind it,
little wagon being pulled behind.
full of explosives.
Full of explosives.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
perfect. And a little tube coming to the front. It's
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal.
So incredibly impractical, but amazingly looking model. Um,
Yeah, if only they'd release more models faster for Heresy. That's the only
Or keep some
downside.
of them in stock. That would be
Yeah,
phenomenal
I
as well.
mean,
I
that's
mean,
another thing.
try and buy a Rhino, right? And
I have a rule in my house: see a rhino, buy a rhino,
it's a really good rule. Yeah,
because they are that hard to come across,
it's
and
ridiculous.
yeah, for exactly that reason. If I come across one in the wild, I just pick it up.
And
And
yeah,
it's a relatively cheap model for what you're getting. It's anywhere from I think 59 to 70 bucks, depending if they do the discounts or not,
I think
right?
it might
If you
even be
come
cheaper
across.
than that. I think
Oh
it might
yeah.
start at 60 full price. Like it's like
Okay.
kind of a tank of yesteryear almost.
Right.
That's and then with a discount, like you're looking at
Yeah.
750. It's great.
Yeah, it's a it's a good kit and it's convertible too for the
Hmm.
well, we shouldn't mention that because I don't want 40K people picking them up when they come across them. But
The Demos Rhino, that's no good for 40K.
yeah,
No, you don't
Demo's
want a
pattern does
Demos
not
pattern.
work.
No, you need
It's
Mars
not
pattern. Mm-mm.
that's forbidden.
Yeah,
Um,
verboten.
so this is your fourth or fifth Hogtowner
Yes,
that you just played
this
in?
was my I want to say fourth. I think it was my fourth Hogtowner that I played in. Uh,
Nice.
First year was in seventh, and I
Mhm.
brought my Blood Ravens, which were Space Marine chapter
mhm.
from the Dawn of War series, which I don't
Yep.
know if either of you are familiar with that game,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
oh, what that's I just love that color scheme, and you can get
Yep.
all sorts of with the dawn of 3D printing. Now you can get the actual shoulder pads and
Yep.
stuff, and it looks great.
That's
It's like chapter, and they even released Gabriel Angelos as a model through Forge World for a
very
while,
cool.
and another cooler one through RTLW, a third party retailer.
Nice.
Then the next year after that, I did Tau. Actually, I brought Tau and a tiger shark, which was a lot of
Nice.
Oh,
fun.
wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I've done five of them then, because then I did Sons of then I did
Yeah, you just have to think
Heresy.
about the armies, and you're
Yeah,
like, I've done.
yeah. Because then I did Sons of Horus 2 years ago.
Hmm.
For that was the first year that second edition Horus Heresy dropped. I had a
Yep.
great time. Then last year I did 40K and brought my guard,
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
my feudal guard, and then this year was Heresy again, and next year maybe 40K again. But oh, Heresy was so good this year. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean
might just have to break that streak and go do Heresy
the
again. It's
heresy
so
part
good.
of it just sounds so great. And Kalen came along with you, right?
He did, yes. He really
Nice.
came in at the last minute because we were 7-7, so seven loyalists, seven traitors, and one of the
Yep.
loyalists had to drop out.
Right.
But thankfully, Kalen, within
His
1
fists.
week, he was able to get stuff together, get up
Nice.
there, and lock it down too.
Beautiful.
it was a tough event to get ready for that fast too, because it was
Yeah.
you had to bring he brought four lists, which was one at 3,500, one at 2,500, one at
Oh,
2K, and one at 1250 for Zone Mortalis.
Oh,
Four
wow.
separate
holy
lists.
shit. I had
Yeah.
no idea about that part.
So the
Okay.
idea is that as the campaign is going, we're losing forces. So each game we've
Yes.
had our first game of the day was 3,500 points. That's where all
Right.
the knights were out, the fell
Mm,
blades, the
mm,
falchions. There was two warhound titans. There was a Lucius pattern and there was my own.
right.
Both of them died horribly. But they look good.
They look good though.
Oh,
They
no.
And
look
then as the
great.
day went on, as the 2 days went on, we had fewer and fewer points, which was actually really great because I
Yeah.
don't know about you guys, but by the fifth game of a weekend tournament, I'm pretty gassed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And only having to pilot 2K instead of 3.5
Yeah.
is easier.
That is
Yeah.
definitely true.
Yeah. Because the relief once you get down to that 1250, like that would be like, okay, piece of cake. We'll be done this in 48 minutes, guys. Set your watches.
Well,
Yeah.
except I don't know if you've ever fought against Kalen's Phalanx Warders.
I
They were
have.
they they
I
were
hate them.
I think they were the last table still playing was they had
Yeah.
a four-player Zone Mortalis force, and it was just a
Okay.
scrum in the middle, and you just saw a bunch of yellow guys with shields
Yeah.
holding the line against a bunch of world eaters.
Scott loves fists, and I kept trying to persuade him to do heresy because I'm
Oh,
like
they're the
Imperial
best.
fists
They're the
are
best.
probably the best army in heresy.
As they
Best
should be.
rules, like yeah, as it should be.
Yeah. I'm
Oh
tempted by
man,
it. I am really tempted by it, but I don't
It's
know
a
that
whole other thing.
that's
it's
the
a
thing.
whole other thing.
A whole other really great thing.
Yeah, really, really good. Do you still play Lord of the Rings, Lucas?
Oh no, I
No.
unfortunately I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like as soon as 40K came into my life,
Mhm.
I was
Everything else
kind of
went
like
away.
that Andy with the Woody toy. I'm done with you
Yeah.
now. Like just dropping them
Hello,
off.
Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're my
That
favorite
was
now.
it was actually pretty accurate, right? I don't want
Yeah.
this old timey one. I want the space guy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
exactly. Yeah, that makes
So
sense. But AOS is wet your whistle.
it
You,
has, and mostly for the models. My goodness.
yeah.
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 The models are
Yeah.
phenomenal. So
Unbelievable.
what is your AOS?
Skaven. So I'm
Oh,
currently
Nice.
working on a Skaven force. I have actually on my painting desk over beside me, I have a bunch of clan rats. Boy, do you ever need a lot of clan rats.
Yeah.
And some Jezzails, the rats with giant rifles, which is
Hmm.
hilarious. Also,
hmm.
Yes.
Skaven is so funny. Like
Yeah.
a bunch of
Yeah.
rats that don't care for each other or almost themselves, blowing up half the time. Uh, careening over the battlefield on contraptions made of
Yeah.
wood and lightning.
Yeah. Slinging poo and all sorts of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I think there's a spell called Sling Poo.
Yeah, yeah. Goes off on a seven, but
Yeah, if you get a
um
13,
Yeah.
it's extra poo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and did you just jump into AOS with fourth, or did you dabble in third and second and all that
I
good stuff?
did
Or
I did dabble in I think it was either second, I think it was second, but I played
mm,
one of the like intro tournaments.
okay,
Had a good time, and then immediately never played again, and
right.
sold my stuff. But for for fourth, I really the rule set is really fun.
It's awesome.
hmm.
I really like the reaction system. Kind of reminds
Hmm.
me of Heresy a little
Heresy.
bit, a little
Yep.
bit. That's a lot of fun. Being able to be engaged in your opponent's turn is so
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's huge.
so 40K
Yep.
does that a little bit with stratagems.
Yeah.
A
I
little bit.
find Heresy does it a lot
Hmm.
because reactions are game changing. Um,
Absolutely.
and then now with AOS, same deal. Like you have a resource that you can spend to activate or enhance your troops in your opponent's turn, so you're not just
Hmm.
rolling dice whenever you got to take saves and removing models.
hmm.
So you're actually
Yep.
involved in it, and I really like that aspect.
I think it makes a huge difference for bringing new people into the
Mm,
game
Absolutely.
and as like a barrier to entry, just having to wait 20 minutes potentially for
Hmm.
somebody to finish doing their turn is
Yep.
like, well, am I getting everything out of this game that I want to be getting? But if
right,
you're able to engage right off the bat, like that makes a huge, huge difference for new people.
One 100%. I mean,
hugely.
even having that because some of the war scrolls, some of your abilities are like in your opponent's combat phase,
Mhm.
this
Hmm.
ability goes off, right?
Yep.
So if you could imagine them taking that and putting that in 11th, I think it would be game changing for the 40K scene.
Yeah.
Um, I really think it would up the ante for
Hmm.
sure. And I love 10th. Like I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know a lot of people didn't like it because they got away from like force organization charts and all that kind of stuff. The stuff that makes heresy cool.
Yeah, I was about to say that's why we still have heresy. We can
But
we can be old man gamers with all that
yeah,
fiddly, crunchy
yeah,
stuff.
specific rules about,
Yeah.
well, my angle isn't quite right, so you can't hit the front, you're only hitting the side and all
So you
that
get a
other
5 up
sweet.
cover save instead of a
Yeah.
6 up cover save.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But uh but yeah, the interactivity of AOS has gotten me completely hooked. And like you, I'm like the models just get better and better and better.
Oh yeah,
I'm
they're
already
off the charts good.
Yeah.
they are off the charts good. I'm already planning my next army for AOS and
Ooh, what are you gonna do? Oh, can you reveal
Lumineth.
it on here? Oh, you're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
do
I could
Lumineth.
reveal. I'm not winning anything anytime soon. This is the Constellation League. Someone's gonna be like, "Oh no, he's playing Lumineth. We'll never win again."
Oh, Paul's coming for the top tables.
Yeah,
A
yeah, no, there's no danger of that. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do Lumineth. I think a glass cannony, something with a lot of shooting and
lot of movement too,
That's
a
right?
lot
very
of
that's
lot of
very
movement.
interesting because you sent me a text just 2 days ago, 3 days ago when they
Hmm.
revealed the new Eldari,
Yeah,
Oh,
and you were like,
yeah. I
"I'm
was
going to
like,
be going with them." You're mentioning glass cannons.
yes,
I'm thinking, "Oh,
yeah.
you're
I
going
am
down
tempted. The
the
next
elves."
40K army to build out a bit is going to be the an Eldar list, and I hear the new
right.
codex is going to have 7 detachments.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
that's pretty
Plus that
tasty.
one bonus one that's coming out in was it December sometime, right?
Yeah, starting
Everybody's
Yeah,
as
getting
of
one.
that's right.
Sunday, we're going to start
Yeah,
getting them once a day
Yeah.
at least. So
it's gonna
we'll
be cool.
see.
So it's going to be pretty cool that way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you're playing right now, Lucas. You're in AOS, Heresy, and 40K.
Yes.
Not Old World.
No. I
No,
did play
nothing.
Old World back in like very early high school, like or grade
Right.
8, grade 9 kind of thing. I had a
Hmm.
hey, I had a Skaven army. I just keep going
There you
back to
go.
armies I had when I was young. Maybe there's some nostalgia there.
Yeah.
I had a high elf army, I think, too, and I have distinct
Nice.
memories of playing the game terribly on like a friend of mine's bedroom floor,
Mm,
using cereal trays as movement trays and not really getting all
nice.
the rules
Right.
right, but still doing our best to
It's
like make that
intent.
up.
You played for
Yeah,
intent.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 And then we would get up and knock our models down. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sticking with those 3 game systems, um, and also spending a lot more time. I don't get to game nearly as much as I would like to
Hmm.
anymore, which is fine. I'm just at a point in my life where I've got, getting out of the house for long periods of time during the day is harder
Hmm.
than it used to be when I had,
Absolutely.
every weekend free to do whatever I wanted.
Hmm.
But what I've really turned to now is I don't think I've ever painted this much stuff this fast. Usually
Nice.
it takes me like a year and a half to paint an army, and now I'm churning out units. It feels like every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it feels really good.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
Oh,
really trying
it's
to like push different aspects of the hobby, try out new techniques, get into
hmm.
weird stuff like that's not that weird. I mean, like people have been using it all the time, but like oil paints
Hmm.
has been like a big
Mhm.
push of mine now. Fun hobby aids and things like I've just started using some of the Dirty Down products, and
Okay. What are
Okay.
those?
whoa, you should check them out. So there's it's this company called Dirty Down, and they make water soluble effect paints.
Hmm.
And one of them is so they've got like a rust one, a moss
Hmm.
one, and a verdigris. And the rust one is unbelievable. You have
Okay.
to shake it until your arm almost falls off to get it to work.
Hmm.
Right.
But once it goes on, it makes such convincing old rust. So you take a look at that Predator that I posted maybe on the
Right.
Kingston Warhammer group, and you just like zoom in on the track a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and just the way that it flows and you reactivate it with a little bit of water, you can really massage it so that some sections are that bright, fresh orange rust, and the
Hmm.
rest of it is that dingy kind of runoff, gross
Oh,
collection.
that'll be,
And it almost has a little bit of texture to it too, so it adds a lot to your model,
I was going to
and it's
say
pretty.
Nice.
perfect for your Skaven.
Yeah,
perfect for
you could do
them.
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it, Scott's never had the benefit of seeing some of your work, but I have to say Lucas's painting is like next level. Like his airbrushing and stuff like that.
Oh, thanks,
It's
brother.
just, oh, it's phenomenal, man. And I'm like, we're both working on Death Guard as I think our other heresy kind
I know we
of.
keep picking the same stuff.
And uh and I'm like, oh, you when you posted your Predator tank, I was like, damn, that is so good. I'm
A
like,
lot,
I'm gonna have to steal the recipe because I'm like,
a lot of it's
oh, it's
cheats too.
perfect. It's
Like
perfect.
that is something that I used to do this during COVID, would be
Mhm.
doing calls like these and just doing hobby time. Like where
Right.
I found that made sometimes, it's tough to get off your butt to get onto your butt to paint,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And when
100%.
you're somebody else is holding you accountable through a screen,
Yeah.
it helps a lot, and it's good to hang out and just kind of talk like this. Actually, I
Yeah.
probably would have been able to do this while hobbying, and I would have been pretty happy, actually.
What
I mean, all I
are
have
you
to do, I like
saying?
kind
What
of
are we
turn
not
this way.
engaging?
Just, just,
And
just
just,
the
Yeah,
yeah,
get away.
2 inch pivot. And
Yeah.
there we go.
And there you go. Yeah, I know for me, one of the things that's kept me going is like our campaign, playing prior to that in the Escalation League, and then now starting to play 40K tournaments and AOS tournaments has really helped keep me to a schedule because I'm more focused now on I want to have stuff at least battle ready if I'm going to bring
Mhm,
it outside.
There is
And
nothing
that's just,
like an event to push you over
mhm.
the
yeah,
goal. Yeah.
And even if your
100%.
event, um, doesn't penalize you for not having it
Hmm.
painted, having the goal of having it painted for the event is really nice because when you set your army up on the table,
Yeah.
you're just like, yeah, this is an army. Like this is it. This is what we're
Hmm.
playing with. These are my guys. If you name a character, you're like, this is who he is, and
Hmm.
away you go. It makes a huge difference for your immersion into
Oh,
the
it's
game.
spectacular.
Yeah. No,
Which it's part of the reason seeing like two painted armies, they don't even have to be well painted. As long as they're cohesive, they look good.
hmm.
Their bases are all matchy. Like if two
Hmm.
of those armies facing off on some like pretty good terrain, like that's what it's all
Yeah,
about for me.
yeah.
I get asked
Absolutely.
sometimes why I don't play more like uh TTS, like Tabletop Simulator,
Hmm.
because I'm really in the game for the tactile movement of the guys showing
Hmm.
off what I've painted, and standing across the table from somebody as well. So there's
Yeah.
also
Hmm.
that aspect that you don't quite get the same on TTS for me. So it doesn't scratch that same itch.
Right.
During
Right.
COVID, of course, I played a decent amount on TTS before lockdowns were lifted. But
Sure.
now that we don't have to, if I'm gaming in person. If I have time to focus on the hobby, just like the hobby as a whole, and I'm near a computer or something like that, then I'll probably be painting in that time instead of playing. I'd
Nice.
rather paint than play on TTS.
That's fair.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that's
That's
fair.
really
I think
fair.
that's totally fair. Do you see yourself, are you you're a competitive player though, because you've done quite well in the local scene here. I think you usually finish near the top, don't you? Didn't you win
Yeah,
club champs
I
before?
would
Or
say, yeah, I think I've won 4 club champs,
nice.
Okay.
or at least gotten best overall a couple of years
Mm,
and got best general a couple other years. I won best overall at the last Hogtowner in the 40K one, the 40
nice.
person GT-ish level
Well
kind of
done.
thing. Um, but as I was saying now, like my focus has definitely shifted over, and part of that is I don't get to practice as much, and practice
Right.
does definitely make perfect.
Hmm.
Right.
I still try to keep on top of my rules and stuff like that, so I don't slow anybody down while I'm playing.
Hmm.
But there's no substitute for practice, right?
Yeah.
No.
So now I'm like I said, I'm trying to go for the next. I think my goal for the next club champs is
Hmm.
I want to bring the best table. I want to bring the best terrain and then have
Okay.
5 good games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
kind of my
cool.
goal. Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
awesome.
I've no doubt you'll get that because I've seen some of your tables and I'm like, this guy's got the imagination and the skill to pull that off
I do have a
for
new one
sure.
cooking up for this year. It's going to be
Beautiful.
I hope it's going to be good. I just played a little bit more paint on it last night, so hopefully it'll
Nice.
play well too, right? That's the other thing. Hopefully it
Hmm.
plays okay. Because I think
Right.
part of the votes are not only just how it looks, but like if it sucks to play on, then
Right.
nobody's going to vote for
Yeah.
that for best table.
No, fair enough. Yeah, they're like, yeah, it looked great, but I got shot off the board in turn one, so
Hmm.
that wasn't
I
fun.
I do really like that. So for anybody else listening who's not part of like the Kingston Gaming Nexus kind of scene as far as
Hmm.
like club champs goes and stuff like that, if your club doesn't has like pretty regular tournaments or even like a kind of a culmination event like this one is our club championships. One of the awards that was recently introduced within the last couple of years is an award just for best table, where people are encouraged to submit their tables to be played on at the event, so that the
Hmm.
event organizer isn't the one, or the space isn't the one providing
Doing
all
all
of the
that.
terrain.
Hmm.
Right.
And then it's an extra incentive to make your event look even better because now there's a little trophy attached to it as well. So
Yeah,
I
That's
mean
really
that's
that's it's
cool.
pushing me over the edge to try and make a really cool table again. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, it's just another way to get a community to come together to help with one of the honestly harder parts of having a gaming club, which is
Mm.
terrain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it's one of those things where it's got to be nice to play on tables that aren't necessarily always WTC or
Hmm.
something else, where it's just L's everywhere,
Hmm.
and like
Yeah,
there can be a little bit more theme behind it than just a
Scott,
blank
you
kind of
gotta make it
cityscape.
down to the hall at some point to have
Um,
a game. Why
Yeah,
don't you
yeah,
come
man.
visit Paul?
yeah.
Stop on
Yes,
by. I'm on the way. I'm on
he's
the
on
way
the
to Paul's
way.
house.
That's
Bring your
true.
dog. Bring one dog. I've heard bad
Bring,
things about the other one.
yeah, don't
Yes,
bring the other one.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I actually do have to do a quick correction from at the beginning. We didn't actually meet during that escalation, Paul. We
That's
met
right.
during that intro to 10th tournament when Scott had come down all the way from you're in Curtis, I think, right?
I'm in Ajax, just
Ajax.
Ajax,
outside.
That's
Ajax. The
right.
gaming group is in Curtis or something, right? Or something.
Yeah,
It's this is a parasocial relationship, right? Where I've heard you talk about your life for
Yeah.
15 episodes.
Yeah,
So I have all this
yeah.
insider information. Never meet your heroes. Um, but you came all the way down from Ajax,
That, yeah,
Yeah,
and first
right.
round pairing was Paul versus
Me.
Scott.
yes,
And
And
I
you
had
put up your
actually,
hand.
I did. I
You were
said, "Oh, I'll
like,
take one of them."
that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
yes.
That is
I
This
thought that's
absolutely right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have been you or somebody else that put up their hand as well. Was like,
No,
these guys must play themselves all the
It's just
time.
it
It's
was
constantly.
not right.
Lucas. It was Lucas. And I do remember that because you were like, I'm sure these guys play themselves all the time. And the funny thing was, Scott and I had played two
The
of the
night
three
before.
missions the night before
Right?
to practice before coming to the thing. So I was incredibly grateful that you were like, hang on,
Yeah,
let's redo these pairings, like for
yeah,
God's sakes.
Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah,
there's
no,
sometimes it can be fun to do a grudge match like that, but I mean,
sure.
well,
But
yeah.
not
for
when you grudge
us,
match each other constantly.
Yes,
yeah, well,
exactly.
and like literally having played two of the missions, and it was like you're gonna play mission one again the next
Yeah,
day, and well, like, well, we know how this turned out. Like,
yeah.
anyways, no, that was great.
Hmm.
So your next event is the Kingston Club Champs. That's the Family Day weekend in
Yes.
February.
Yes.
Okay.
And are there any other events you have a long eye on, or do you ever travel for any, or
I haven't
that
gone too
on the
far. One,
cards?
I will say, like, I really want to make it to Adepticon. Probably not this year,
Yeah,
but maybe next year. Like, may
really?
if there's one event, like big marquee event that I would like to
Mhm.
go to, I think it's Adepticon. I've
Well, it
heard
does
so
have
many
Sounds
that
cool.
things. Yeah.
hobby appeal to it, right? Like I
Yeah.
watched so many videos on YouTube where people are showing the bags of swag they pick up from Adepticon of like little things like, oh, I got this for my paints and I got this, to convert. And like there just seems to be
Hmm.
a lot of like toys you can pick up there that would be really cool. Not to
I think
mention,
it's. Oh, yeah, go ahead there.
I think it'd be, with the coverage and Warhammer's presence there, I think it would be a blast, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think it's also drivable from our area. It's a long drive,
it's a
but
long
it's
drive.
drivable. And I
It's,
have a big phobia of flying with my models because if you ever watch a baggage
mm.
handler do stuff, like it would have to be a carry-on. Have to be a
Yeah.
carry-on. You'd have to sit with
Yeah.
it on my lap like this. It'd be awful.
Yeah.
So I think I could drive there, and not only just the gaming aspect of it, but yeah, like you said, the vendor hall that would be amazing,
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
the world class classes as well. I would love to take some like
Oh,
classes with some
right.
unbelievable painters. Like
Right.
Yeah.
it's I wish we lived in a little bit. Well, Ajax is a little bit closer, and
Mhm.
but there's not as many hobby classes that come to like the GTA. I find I would drive to the GTA for like a Darren Latham class or something like that, no
Right.
problem. But
Yeah.
when you go there, you can pick like 4, 5 classes that are like 5 hours long that teach you how to paint a night in like that amount of time.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that'd be spectacular.
Oh yeah, that's a
That would be
great
incredible.
idea.
Mhm.
That would be
And then
really
playing
cool.
like one of the big narratives or
Mhm.
like a night joust or something fun. I probably wouldn't do like I wouldn't do like the 40K
Tournament.
grand tournament.
Yeah.
I might do the 40K like a friendly or a doubles if I went with a friend, but I'd
Yep.
probably want to do some sort of heresy event too, like a 1 day heresy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, a kind of dream event would be that SN Battle Reports, Rock of Gibraltar,
Yes.
Heresy Retreat, I
We
think would be phenomenal.
there was it was Heresy Hammer did a breakdown of the cost of what it's like to go to
Yeah.
No Retreat.
Yes.
And but that was for UK citizens.
Oh,
And
Yes.
that like so
Yeah, it was in
add a
pounds
couple
sterling.
add
So
another
double it.
$1,000.
And
Like, but
yeah,
it seems
it's
amazing.
yeah, because they do the learning to paint sessions
Mhm.
too, I think. And
It's on a
yeah,
5-star
yeah,
floating resort on a
yacht or
yacht.
something.
Included in the ticket price is like an hour of personal training
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How cool is
in the
that?
gym. Yeah. Roll
Yeah,
dice and get swole.
yeah,
So,
exactly. That's how you sell it. It's a wellness retreat.
yeah. That's how you submit it to your insurance. This is
Yeah.
a wellness.
So that's
Yeah.
I could knock a couple $100 off of it from that wellness fund. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also
Um,
selling it, of course, selling it to a like a your partner as well too. So you have to like
yeah.
have to say, hey, Jess, what do you think about going to Gibraltar to play Warhammer for 4 days?
Play Warhammer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
on a yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with a chef.
Yeah. There you go.
Right?
There you go.
In Spain, just off of
Yeah.
Spain,
Yeah. Don't just leave out the Gibraltar part. Just say it's the south of Spain.
south of
It's that's
Spain.
the Spain. Leave out the Warhammer part, and it's just that's the
Yeah.
surprises you're packing. It's like,
It's
what
not
are you
even like
doing? Oh, this is part of it. I thought
it's
you
not
knew
even
this.
full on Warhammer. It's like historical Warhammer,
Historical.
future historical Warhammer.
Yeah.
Like just
Oh
that is the
man.
tricky thing with heresy is explaining it to some people because now that
Hmm.
Warhammer is a little bit more into the cultural zeitgeist, like people are like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Warhammer. They're like the Space Marine game. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Space Marines are cool. I'm like, well, I play that, but it's like 10,000 years in the future. And have you heard about the Emperor and his Primarchs and the
Yeah.
Horus Heresy? Like it's a whole
Yeah.
That's
extra
a whole.
layer of nerd that goes
Yeah.
on top of it.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
that's the
so
Space
good.
Marine game. Well, actually.
actually,
Actually,
yeah. Do you have a couple
yeah.
hours to hang out?
Yeah. Oh
Then
man.
lore dump. Yeah.
Mhm.
But other than Adepticon, do you have anything other semi-local or is
Hopefully I
Hogtowner the
can make it to
is
another one of Shannon's tournaments. My gosh,
yeah.
I'm missing Secret Santa, which sold out instantly, which is fantastic.
Yes.
What a great problem to have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm fine with that. Missing the AOS one that you're going to over the
Yeah,
weekend,
that's a
just due
bummer.
to well family commitments.
Yeah, of
But
course.
so
Yeah,
it's
it's that
for
time
the
of
right
year.
reasons.
Yep.
Missing it for the right
Yeah.
reasons. But then after that, obviously the holiday season means a little
Mhm.
bit less. Sometimes I run. 2 years ago, we ran we called it Heresy in the Sticks, where we went
Mhm.
to my folks' place in Brighton with about 8 other guys, and we just set up
Nice.
tables all throughout their house and rolled dice. So I'm trying to plan that again. So I was
Nice.
thinking of
Very
inviting you
cool.
if you're available.
That's really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they were very gracious. They loved having a bunch of nice fellas over playing board
Mhm.
games in their house.
Very cool.
They're very cool people. They were always supported me in this hobby, even when like obviously they were sending me at 12 years old to play at JMB by myself.
Well,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they would because they knew it was a safe spot. They knew it
yeah,
was a good thing to be in. Definitely keeps you out of trouble. My gosh, the old
100%.
tagline of if you got money for Warhammer, you don't got money for drugs. That's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're
Well, I
spending on a
mean,
different kind of crack.
it
Yeah.
would
It's the
go without
plastic kind.
saying your dad is doing voices as he's reading Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. That would be the one stipulation that at some time at that event he would have to be under the Misty Mountain or something. He would have
Yeah.
to
Singing one of those songs
Yeah.
that don't exactly
hear the
rhyme.
echo in the house somewhere.
Oh man. It's
So
too
I'm
funny.
going to try and put something like that together. So that's more of a self-run event. And I really do hope that we start doing more. Maybe Trevor and I can kind of join forces. Trevor's
Hmm.
another one of the heresy players in our campaign. Well, first
Yeah.
we need to have another campaign
We
day.
need
I
to
mean,
finish our
phew,
campaign. Yep.
we need to have game two.
We have to game two.
So hopefully
Ugh.
that actually let's like
We'll
hey,
aim on that first.
let's aim for that. I would love to
Yeah.
get
Mhm.
game two in. Maybe sometime I've taken 2 weeks off around the Christmas break. Maybe we can
I'm
figure
off.
something out.
Yeah, I've got 2 weeks off around the Christmas break, so
Yep.
we should be able to squeeze something in.
Just
We're not.
we got to do our armored assault.
Absolutely, man.
Hmm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the short term. And then next year, gonna hit the Hogtowner again, love it, and then try to hit
Nice.
more of Shannon's tournaments because now that my son's in school, he's a little bit
Hmm.
older. He's turning 5 this year. It's a little
Nice.
bit easier to kind of work around his schedule. So
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
looking forward to that. And then
Cool, man.
eventually getting him into it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's, I mean, Scott's starting that next week with Samuel, his 14-year-old,
There we go.
Starting with
with
Kill
Kill
Team.
Team.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to like well, when you come to play the game over here, you could even have a whole maybe segment about that is like how to introduce your kids into wargaming without making them hate it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a
Yeah,
delicate balance, eh?
it really is, and it's a huge it is a challenge because it is one of those things where it has to be interactive.
Hmm.
Hmm.
The kids' attention spans today are shit, so they're
Yeah.
not paying any attention. If it's not them that's doing
Hmm.
something, they're not really engaged with what's going on. So you
So
have to kind of keep it engaged with them and kind of build a story. And so the fact that you guys are already planning like all this thematic stuff from 30K, the horse heresy, like you've got the story building kind of there. So it's just
Hmm.
like, okay, so this is what's going to happen in this game, and this is why we're doing this, and this is why these objectives are important, and kind of building that out. But yeah, I'll definitely try and come up with some successes and most likely failures on how
Yeah.
to engage teenagers into playing the game.
yeah, when you bring that up, I guess the alternating activation and kill team probably is a benefit
Yeah,
that way.
a
Yeah.
huge benefit to it. That's
Hmm.
it's one of the things that the kids have always said is when it comes time, it's well, I don't want to spend 3 or 4 hours playing the game, and
Hmm.
I don't want to wait 20 minutes for you to finish moving everything.
Right.
Maybe you
Fair
got to get
point.
faster at moving your stuff.
Be more decisive.
It's like carpentry. It's smear twice, cut once.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? Yep, movement
Okay,
wins
can I
games,
do
right?
this?
Yeah.
Is
That's
that
fair.
true? That's where I'm falling apart then.
Oh yeah, movement definitely wins games. Come
Yeah.
on. And that's why,
Uh,
Paul, I'm really looking forward to when you start playing those kind of flitty glass cannony armies because that's a movement game right
that's
there.
a movement
Hmm.
game
Mhm.
right there. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's
Completely
gonna be
different
fun.
mindset. It's going to
Mhm.
be very different.
Yeah, I want to, yeah, I mean, and I started collecting the Eldar with the refresh in ninth
Oh,
Hmm.
when
so
they
you
did
already
the
have the
new.
new stuff too.
So I have, yeah, I bought a bunch of it back then. So it's not gonna be a huge pocketbook hit to add a couple extra units because I pretty
Hmm.
much have, 2,000 points. It's just adding couple more units, and those new models look great. So seems like a good time to try them out for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I don't know. Never mind.
You're
I
thinking of
was,
jumping?
no, I was going to say it's an interesting thing because it's starting new armies is where it's really fun.
Mm.
But you always have that thing of, but I'm doing really bad right now. I kind of want to go back to the comfort of like where I did a little bit better.
Oh, I don't
Right.
have that problem.
Yeah, you just do good all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
This game's super easy if you just roll sixes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Here's the tip. Just
yeah,
roll
just roll
high.
some
It's just,
sixes and everything will
Yeah.
be fine.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I find that that is tricky. That is a tricky part of this hobby is the hobby. People call it like the hobby ADD or
Hmm.
the hobby
Hmm.
ADHD, where because everything is so cool that
Hmm.
you get started on one army and you're like halfway done painting it, and I've already got eyes on another army, and I haven't even
Yeah.
Yeah.
played a single game with the
Yeah.
Yep.
first army that I'm painting up.
100%.
Right?
I
Like
have
Hmm.
it's tough.
intentionally not been checking out Warcom and other websites this week for the
Hmm.
most part, outside of the the WCW kind of World Champions previews. I've been ignoring it because I'm like, I don't want to see new things before Christmas right now because it'll
Yeah.
just be like,
Right.
oh, I
Oh,
want
but
that.
Scott, how cool do those
Oh,
new Krieg look? Whoa.
Yeah.
Those
oh,
And
giant gun emplacements.
the
Scott's got some guard
freaky
too. Like
horse things,
Scott
like,
could
oh,
easily add those and have, because I don't think Scott's got 2,000 points of guard yet. So
I
those new models
don't. It would be
are
easy to fill
screaming.
in. I know they do look really good.
They
Why did
look
you do that to me?
great.
They
Oh,
look
like,
Mm,
did you see how
fantastic.
big those gun emplacements were? I think were they a
Oh,
130 mil base? I think it
yeah.
was.
yeah,
It's
they're
like
Awesome.
enormous, but they look and the weapon loadouts on all of them.
Mm,
whatever that rocket launcher with like the 12 rockets in a row.
Yes.
Looks like a
yeah.
speculous rocket launcher from 30K on the back
That's
of that bombard tank that sucks.
Yeah.
But it looks really cool.
Yeah.
It's
it's
yeah,
definitely one of those ones that I look at it and I go, "Oh, that is a hard one for rule of cool." Like
Yeah.
that one would be a magnetize because I would want all of those options at some point.
Yeah.
and it looks like there's a big long cannon. There's a some sort of mortar, like a
Yeah.
heavy mortar of some sort. Yeah,
Mm.
it
Oh, it looks
looks really good.
phenomenal. All
So
those models look really, really cool.
that's definitely a day one buy for me.
Yeah.
Is
I was just
that
gonna
guard box.
say,
Yeah,
you're going to
So
expand
tempted.
your Imperial Guard, your Astra Militarum with them.
yeah, yeah.
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 It's a no-brainer.
And then I think I might go back to in 40K once I'm still really hooked on guard. I've got a
Hmm.
couple knights. I'm like looking
Oh
over
yeah.
at my collection to the left.
Hmm.
I've got a couple knights that I might flesh out a bit as well, but I might go back to my Marines again. It's been a couple of years.
Nice.
Add some more units to them. They're a very eighth edition kind of army with a
Okay.
lot of legends units in it now. Like there's a
Right.
Leviathan Dreadnought, a Xiphon
Mm,
Interceptor,
mm,
a Sikaran um, Venator
Yeah.
right.
with the laser destructor on the front. So stuff that I can't really play. Oh,
Mhm.
two Contemptor Dreadnoughts. So it's
Right.
almost like but it's all
It's
Primaris
a
otherwise.
yeah,
So
it's
it
a
doesn't
almost
work
a
in either
30K
system.
list.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
work in
work.
either system though.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of Primaris guys
Ah.
running around and then a bunch of ancient war tech as well,
Mhm.
like floating around with it.
Sounds like good fodder for a theme table.
Yeah.
Yeah, could do something like that. Yeah. All in like recovering assets or
Yeah.
Blood Ravens are famous for finding relics.
There you go.
That's
Oh
amazing.
man. Well, thanks very much for sitting down tonight and chatting with us, Lucas. It sounds like the Hogtowner is a great event, and people should definitely look into it
Hmm.
in the future. Is it always in November?
Most of the time. Most of the time it's in
Yeah.
November. Uh yeah, October, November.
Okay.
But yeah, join up on they've got a pretty active Discord if you're in the Toronto area for more of a relaxed approach to the game with a big focus on hobby.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
It
fantastic.
sounds great. Well, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And you won't see us in the Constellation League, but we'll see some of our people out there for sure.
I'll see you guys soon.
All
Yep.
right.
Bye.